is because I'm actually an identical twin, Carrie too. And I say that because it is true. My twin sister had Michael Jackson all over the wall. So some of you that are my age, maybe. I'll just tell you this, I graduated from high school in 1989. That might help a little bit. And I actually had fighter jets on the wall. And my first school that I went to was the University of Dubuque. And I did fly planes, and I loved it. And my mother gave me the privilege of actually, in between my 11th and 12th grade, I went to flight school at the University of Wisconsin in Superior. But I say that because not everybody has the privilege of doing that. My mother gave my sister and I an avenue to the world. My mother was a single parent. And I say that because some of you may have gone through that. Some of you may be single parents, and that's okay. Today we're going to have a conversation about the future of STEM. What is STEM? So if you're not sure what that is, it is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And I have a question for all of you, and I want you to think about this while I'm speaking. What would you create in a new world? And I don't mean a new world as in another place to go, even though we could think about what that would look like on Mars. My other question would be, how would you create a new world? And then also, why is this important? Now I'm going to show you a little bit about what happens to my brain when I was a kid, even as an adult. And I'm going to tell you a story throughout this presentation. But I want you to think of this. And parents, you can think of it too, because it doesn't matter how old you are, because I even say when I grow up, I will go back to flight school, because I still love to fly, even flying here, because I am from the state of California. I'm no longer in Illinois. Who do you choose to be? When I wake up, I think about this. I absolutely love aircraft. And some of you are looking at this thinking, okay, it's a plane. When I look at this, I look at the science behind it. I look at what happened when I was growing up. When I went to the University of Dubuque in 1989, I had aspirations of being a pilot. And those of you that see me, and those of you that are of color, you know you wake up and you walk out the door and you know what you look like. And other people will tell you what you look like when you walk into a store and you go and buy something and they follow you around. But my presentation is, I want you to think about the half full, because everything is a learning experience. Everything that you do. You can take it and be angry, or you can take it and say, I won't do that when I grow up. This is what I will do. I walked into that flight school class, ground school, and I was the only girl. But I was good, I could do the physics. But not only was I the only girl, all the boys were white. But I didn't know any better, because here's the other thing. My mother is white. So I was like, I'm good. I could handle it. I grew up with my mother's family. But you see, they didn't see that. And even though I had all the confidence in the world, it doesn't mean they knew I had the confidence in the world. And they were good with working on their own. But when I got in that Cessna 152, I was on top of the world. Those touch and goes, I could do it with my eyes closed. But when I went back in the classroom, I didn't feel like I belonged. So no matter what you do, you belong. You have to remember you belong. So I moved on. I did end up getting my degree in biological sciences. And this is actually a video of me on a plane a couple of weeks ago when I went to New Orleans for a conference. And that's the one that you can hear on the top right. I look at those clouds and I'm amazed. Some of you, if you've never been on a plane before, enjoy it. Enjoy it, embrace it. Yes, get the window seat. Some of your parents are like, I don't want the window seat. Get the window seat. See what's happening. Because what is STEM? Science is the understanding of the world around you. When you walk outside and you see those trees, do you just walk by the tree, or do you know what's happening to the tree? technology, understanding what you can do with the science. Engineering, understanding how you can change the science in order to make a better place. And mathematics, using that. Now, I heard a presentation a little while ago, it was on Zoom, and there was a young lady, and I'm amazed that she could talk about statistics from a place that I got to talk about statistics in college. I was fully impressed with that. You're able to do that at a younger age. Your confidence can be different. And this is another slide that I want to show you. In the state of California, I have the privilege of working for Beaumont Unified School District as their director, and I get the privilege of bringing in this. We are partners with the International Space Station, Magnitude IO, and SpaceX. That thing on the bottom right is the lab that they take up, and our students get to do this in the classroom. And they get to see people all over the world. Now, it is my hope that I get to partner with the GEMS Cap and Miss Saki Milton to bring this to you next year and the years to come. But this is a place that the technology that's happening, because the goal of this experiment was to create a plant, grow a plant, and look at the symbiotic relationships with bacteria. In other words, how do these two things work together without soil so that we can create a place to live on another planet? Yes, Mars. This is what children as early as kindergarten get to talk about through 12th grade. Are the conversations different? Absolutely. So women in STEM. It looks differently now. But that doesn't mean we don't have our own obstacles. Perceptions. What do you see when you look at me? What do you see when you look at yourself? What do you see when you look at your parents? Understanding and interpreting something that is a mental expression. Do you believe that you can actually do something differently in the world? Now, this was part of my work in STEM. Children do not grow up to be scientists or engineers without perceived notions that this is possible. So parents, when you wake up in the morning and you know they didn't do what they were supposed to do the night before, how do you react? Do you get upset? We're guilty of it, yes. But the way we have our young ladies and our young men walk out of the door in the morning is up to us. We can say, you didn't do something that I wanted you to do, but we're going to talk about that later, but I want you to have a wonderful day. So whatever you say and do with your children, it matters. Girls, especially, do not attempt to go into STEM careers because the STEM job track lacks the ability to increase girls' perceptions of STEMs. So when you go into these fields, guess who needs to lift you up? You. Your parents. You call your friend. I don't feel like I belong. Yes, you belong. So ladies, I need you to say this with me. I belong. Say it louder. And next time you walk across the stage, you stand up, you stand tall. It took me years to realize that I had the ability and I belonged in this space. All of you are beautiful. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. The other thing I want to talk to you about is self-efficacy. And some of you are like, where is she getting this language from? And that's okay. And self-efficacy refers to an individual's belief in his or her capacity to execute behaviors necessary to produce specific performance attainments, meaning, do you believe you can do it? How many of you, and you don't even have to raise your hands to this, how many of you when you started the GEMS camp thought, there's no way I can do this? How many of you created NFTs? Raise your hand. How many of you thought, I can't do that? But you did. Mathematics is hard work. But with consistency, anybody can do it. It's okay to fail. Learn from your fails. Fall forward with that failure. Now, self-efficacy of women is tied to their social and personal identity. So you must believe that you can do it no matter what. When you walk in and a young man tells you, why are you here? Girls don't belong here. You need to stand in that and say, yes, I do. I have 4 children. My baby is 19. Her name is Madeline. The other one is Morgan. She just graduated from the University of California, Riverside in neuroscience. I'm a proud mama. Oh, yes. Yeah, she's in pre-med now. But did she believe in herself when she was younger? Yes. You know why? Because I told her, you walk in there and you belong. Now, I'm going to tell you that my mother, she was successful. She was able to do what she needed to do. But because she grew up in a different world than me, and I will call it for what it is, we've talked about it, and she's okay with it. She grew up in a white world. She did. So she didn't know how to tell her black baby, it's okay to stand in what you need to do. So I'm going to tell you that you need to stand in that position and say, yes, you can do it. You don't need to look like anyone else. You need to look like you. So when you come to Texas and you realize there's no way you're going to blow dry your hair, you just let it get bigger. So what? Right? And that's okay. Do you. Be beautiful. Girls have a disadvantage from an early age, and by the time they reach middle school, there is a loss of self-efficacy in STEM. Did you know that statistically you are less likely to succeed? Now, I told you, don't let that happen. On the left, I'm going to explain this. This is all jobs in the United States right now. Men is the 53%, since it's covered a little bit. Women is the 47%. Of STEM jobs, women only make up 24% of those. And even more so, when you look at men, women tend to hold mostly life sciences. I don't know if you heard that I went into biology. It's typical. There's more collaboration. Go into the tough areas. Go into the computer sciences. And there's a reason behind that, and I will explain. First of all, you want to go into STEM because if you could see this, of STEM jobs, on the right are the girls. So notice that the dark blue, $31.59. That's how much, on average, girls make if they go into STEM jobs. Now, on average. Now, depending on where you live, you can make even more. And that's when you start out. If you go into a typical job that's easier, that you're like, even though I have this degree, I don't want to go there, you probably will make less. Now, another day to talk about why girls don't make as much as men, that's a whole other day. But you can make more money. But you also have a voice. And you'll get to see that in a second. So, underrepresentation of women. And you can see this is what I call a pipeline. This pipeline, introduction to STEM at home. Dads and moms, what you tell your children, they will believe. So if you tell them they can be a mathematician, they will be that mathematician. And when they find out, because I'm going to tell them that they are still looking for astronauts to go to Mars, and you're like, I don't want my baby to go to Mars, you say, you can do whatever you want. Now, it might not be likely that they'll go, but if they believe they can go, they could. And now I'm going to tell you they won't come home if they do go. You're like, no. But if they tell you they want to be a gymnast, let them be the gymnast. Did I do backflips and I was a gymnast and I hit my head a few times and my mom was like, I can't? Yes. Yes. And it's okay. But whenever we teach them at a younger age and empower them, they will be successful. Because by the time they get into the career, we as women tend to not go into these places, and women of color, our Latinas, our black children, our black girls, even our Asian girls tend to not go in there. Help find them mentors, find them people that look like them so that they can be successful. And another pipeline. And you could see that there's two terms there, implicit bias and explicit bias. Implicit is the belief that someone next to you is thinking about you when you walked into the room. Even if I teach a lecture, I will sit and wait to see if anyone will notice that I'm the one that's teaching or the professor at that time. There is an implicit belief system. Explicit means someone actually says to you, you don't belong here. You have the right to say, I belong. And don't just be good. Be great to tell yourself that. So why STEM? So that you have a voice, so that people can hear from you. So what can you do to increase your self-efficacy? You can find people that are in the field. You can have conversations. You can join the GEMS camp. You can find other organizations. Did you know most universities have other programs that allow you to shadow a doctor in high school? They may ask you to do some things differently, like have a COVID shot, but they will do that for you. My daughter, I didn't even actually help her do this. She found 3 Black doctors, 1 Latina doctor, shadowed them and got to watch 3 different surgeries. You can help your children do that too. Is it work? Everything we're doing is hard work. Now here is the latest conversation in STEM, and I'm going to flip through these quickly because some of you have already heard about it. Smart cities. How many of you have a Nest at home? That the thermostat that you can, like my daughter, the one that's at home right now, because she keeps turning on the air conditioning. I live in Southern California. It's 110 where I live. I might go in the pool. I can change the temperature. I can turn it off. She's texted me this morning, Mom, please don't. You can turn on your stove this way. You can watch your houses this way. That's some of the latest. And then Web 3.0. Now, Web 3.0 is a conversation because there's this idea of what it really is. It's actually, the easiest way to explain it is it's the full integration of everything. Meaning my bank, what I'm doing, it's being in the metaverse, being able to do banking in the metaverse. And some of you are like, oh my gosh, I can't keep up. My mom, who's 74 years old, is on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. And she's like, I don't know if I can keep up. You don't have to keep up, but you do need to understand what's happening in the world. Blockchain, what does that look like? And I know you've had that conversation. What's the programming language around it? My youngest daughter, I didn't tell you this, she's at UCLA in biology. Her calculus class was programming in SQL, SQL. Some of you are like, what's that? Programming language that does this, that links our bank systems. She called me up and she said, I wasn't prepared. So those of you that are entering high school, make sure you ask the right questions. Make sure you're in the classroom asking the teacher, if you don't understand, I don't understand. And if they argue with you, you don't need to be the one. Call up mom and dad so they can help you with this one. You can actually, if you think you can have that conversation with the teacher and the teacher is building a relationship, you say, I don't understand. Why? Because I don't want you to be college ready. Well, I want you to be college ready. I don't want you to just be college accepted. Because some people go to school in that first year, you're like, I didn't know what to do. We want you to be college ready. So if you don't know what to do with that, walk into that classroom with that teacher and say, I don't get it. Get some help. NFTs. I saw the little girl, the one that, whoever made that, it was beautiful. All I could think about was, can you make me one? That was fantastic. I've not created an NFT yet, but I'm working on it, and I'll tell you what it is. I'm taking my own research, and I'm creating an article. Instead of taking 2 years to submit an article to one of those magazines where they're called the peer-reviewed articles, I can actually upload my own article and charge people. So that is the NFT. It doesn't have to just be artwork. It can be your knowledge. And then we have the metaverse. Now you're going to hear some sounds and I'm going to talk over this. This is the International Space University. About 3 weeks ago, I took a clip. I talked to the person that is actually presenting. She is in another country. I had to get up at 3 a.m. to get in this. These are students that you can see in the top right corner. You can find this literally on YouTube. All you have to do is write International Space Station Metaverse, and you can watch it. And I'm forwarding through so you can see that she's teaching students all over the world about what happens in space.
Well, you can't really lift weights, right? So you could use springs, you could use rubber bands.
And the students in the class are the ones in the metaverse that are kind of sitting on the stage, and there are other people observing her. You don't have to be in the metaverse, so those of you that are like, I get a little dizzy, you can actually just see this in 2 dimensions.
There's a device that is vacuum powered. A vacuum.
So I'm just forwarding through this. It was absolutely, it was about an hour, but she's teaching actual space students, future astronauts, future pilots that will be taking the space craft to the International Space Station. And she's talking about it.
Including the head and the feet.
Now, coded bias. I do want to just show you this. So how many of you gone to a restroom and they have those sinks where you have to put your hand under it, or the soap you had to put your hand under it? Has it ever worked the first time? If you turn your hand over this way, it will, because there's some coded bias in the coding. And you're like, oh my gosh. So I want you to listen to this.
A confession. Sometimes, with no one in sight, I code in a white mask. As I make whimsical systems to paint walls with our smiles or project inspirations on faces, I enjoy using code to make my ideas a reality. Computer vision powers my creations, making it possible for machines to detect faces. But at times, I'm invisible. You see, machines view the world through a coded gaze. They digest pixels from a camera in dictated ways. Using machine learning, we create training sets with examples that help the machines detect new faces. A lack of diversity in these training sets leads to limited systems that can struggle with faces like mine. To save time, code libraries for facial recognition are shared like off-the-shelf parts. Many computer vision projects share the same code. Any bias in the system propagates widely and implants a coded gaze. The coded gaze reflects the views of whoever creates the systems. All of our work reflects both our aspirations and our limitations. Can we do better? Yes. We can begin by intentionally creating inclusive code. I call this encoding. Encoding is a mindset that asks, who's missing? Detecting the invisible is easier when you have full spectrum teams equipped with different light filters. Who codes matters. Encoding is a process that explicitly checks the impact of bias during the design, development, and deployment of coded systems. How we code matters. Encoding is a personal mission and an invitation to create a world with a culture of inclusion, a world where technology works for all of us and centers social change. No more masks.
So Dr. Bulambwini, she just finished her dissertation last summer, maybe? Last summer. She works for MIT. If you haven't watched Coded Bias on Netflix, watch it with your children if you choose to watch it. It is profound. It looks at the data, it looks at the conversation about why people like you, girls, voices, women of color, need to be in the conversation so that when you're coding, we do just that. Now, applications. Some of you are like, can they just put that phone down? Let's balance that a little bit. They're on it. They're on social media. You pick the one, the TikTok that takes over, the Reels that take over, the YouTube Shorts that some of you didn't even know was there yet. There's a balance. Just like we don't just put a plate of food in front of children and then say, just keep eating and eating. When they feel full, they're done. Just like last year when we were all on Zoom or Google Meets and we're like, they move around a little bit. If a child is reading a book and you say, put that down, go read a book, and they're on their device, I would argue that they're reading a book. However, it's not just get off the device. It's, I think you've been on that a long time. Let's go for a walk. Let's do something different. Let's go for a hike. Because there's profound learning on these devices. So take some time. There are lots of books about it. I believe I put it in the resources at the end. But the CEO of the International Society for Technology and Education wrote a book. He worked on the Obama administration, and he really talks about the balance. Teaching children the balance. Now, whatever you put out there, young ladies, is what you get back. There is what's called an algorithm. If you put negative information out there, you will get negative information back. There's something to be said about sharing your content, sharing positive information. So think about that. When you're at school and someone says something bad about you, you do not need to respond. You need to tell your parents. You need to get help. Responding in kind will send you down a path that will make it ugly for you. And the truth is that it will change the dynamic of the career that you have later. So consider everything that you put on. You cannot take it back even if you delete it. Because just like I took that Dr. Bulanwini's video, all I did was screen video that. So just because you delete it doesn't make it go away. It's kind of like when we were kids, me, and we wrote the heart on the tree, it's permanent. So just think about that. So social and navigational capital. Think about who you are friends with online. Just because you think you know them doesn't mean you don't know them. I don't know if many of you know that Ms. Saki, Milton, and I have never met in person. We met through a social media app called Clubhouse, and I wish I could meet her today, but soon we will. We interacted for over a year, and I got to meet people that are just like me. So find the people that are like you. But at this age, our brains at a teenager's age is different than when you're 25. So even though we know you believe you know it all, I don't know it all. And it's okay to not know everything. But it is okay to tell your parents the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. You have the right to a voice. This is the reason I'm in this industry. Let people know who you are. Research believes that it was a waste to not have the voice and brain power of women and minorities within science and engineering. Create your space in STEM. And I will leave you with this.
Courses at Hampton High School. Good morning, Your Honor.
Hampton High School was a white school, Mrs. Jackson.
Yes, Your Honor, I'm aware of it.
Virginia, still a segregated state, regardless of what the federal government says, regardless of what the Supreme Court says, our law is the law.
Your Honor, if I may, I believe there are special circumstances to be considered.
What would warrant a colored woman attending a white school?
May I approach your bench, sir? Your Honor, you of all people should understand the importance of being first.
How's that, Mrs. Jackson?
Well, you were the first in your family to serve in the armed forces, U.S. Navy, the first to attend university, George Mason, and the first state judge to be recommissioned by 3 consecutive governors.
You've done some research.
Yes, sir.
What's the point?
The point is, Your Honor, no Negro woman in the state of Virginia has ever attended a non-white high school. It's unheard of.
Yeah. Unheard of.
And before Alan Shepard sat on top of a rocket, no other American had ever touched space. And now he will forever be remembered as the U.S. Navy man from New Hampshire, the first to touch the stars. And I plan on being an engineer in NASA. But I can't do that without taking them classes at that all-white high school. And I can't change the color of my skin. So I have no choice but to be the first. which I can't do without you, sir. Your Honor, out of all the cases you're going to hear today, which one is going to matter 100 years from now? Which one is going to make you the first?
Only the night classes, Mrs. Jackson.
So I show you that video to tell you that you can be the first. And even if you're not a woman of color, you don't have to just be an ally. You can be a liberator. Take another girl by the hand and take her with you. Take her with you. If you haven't watched that movie, it makes me cry every time. So I say to you, who do you choose to be? And I do have resources. Saki, Milton will be emailing them out. And I personally thank you for today.